in the heart of a noisy city, where buildings scraped the sky and the streets never slept, lived a black dog who had nothing. No name, no collar, no family. He was one of many strays, wandering, searching, surviving. He slept on old rags under rusted staircases. He drank from puddles and ate scraps, if he found any. People walked past him as if he were invisible. To them, he was just another dirty, unwanted mutt. But deep inside that little dog burned a spark, a dream. While other dogs chased balls and played in yards, he chased something greater, hope. Each morning, he watched from across the street as school children rushed inside buildings with shiny backpacks and clean shoes. They laughed, shouted, and sometimes dropped crumbs from their lunch boxes. He watched, ears perked and eyes wide, not for the crumbs, but for the books they carried, for the discipline in the morning assembly, for the pride in their eyes. And then he'd turn and walk the other way, toward the garbage, the noise, and the long day ahead. Some dogs accepted their fate. This one didn't. He began to work, not for an owner, not for fun, but for his future. He started by helping the tea vendor on the corner. Every morning, he'd drag a basket filled with plastic cups and sugar packets. The vendor noticed and tossed him a biscuit in return. He wagged his tail, not for the food, but for the dignity. Later, he learned to pull a small cart for the local recycler. Bits of iron, plastic bottles, broken glass. He'd collect them in a ragged sack tied to a wooden board and drag it through the streets. It wasn't easy. Sometimes he fell. Once he got hit by a scooter. But he stood up every time. With the few coins he earned, he didn't buy meat. He bought a torn old book from a boy who had outgrown it, a picture book with words and colors. He didn't know how to read, but he stared at the pages every night under a street lamp, and slowly he began to understand. He saw a picture of a police dog, ears straight, standing tall beside a human officer, medals on its chest, respect in its eyes. He wanted to be that dog. Every night, he trained himself. He ran laps around the park when everyone slept. He jumped over benches, practiced staying still, barking on command, even crawling under railings. Passers-by thought he was mad. They laughed. Some rich dogs, with trim fur and shiny collars, rode past him on scooters. Their owners spoiled them with treats and toys. One day, as he struggled to push an old bicycle with toys to sell, two of them pointed and mocked him. "Look at the filthy mutt, still pretending to be one of us." He said nothing, just picked up the bicycle, dusted himself off, and walked on. One evening, as the sun dipped low and the sky turned gold, he sat near a school gate, watching children leave. One little girl stopped. "Papa," she said, "this dog is always here. He never begs, just sits and watches." The father looked over. "He's smart. Look at his eyes. That's not a regular stray." The girl took out a biscuit and offered it. The dog didn't jump, didn't bark. He sat politely and accepted it. "Let's call him Buddy," the girl smiled. Buddy. For the first time, he had a name. Word spread. Buddy the respectful stray. Buddy the working dog. Buddy the dreamer. He became a part of the neighborhood. Shopkeepers left him food. Children waved. He protected vendors, chased away thieves, guarded sleeping babies outside the mosque. He still trained. Harder now. One day, a man in uniform watched him from across the street. He was a retired Army officer. He had seen many dogs in his time, but none like Buddy. "He's got discipline," the man said. "Heart, too." The next morning, he returned. Buddy was dragging a sack of recyclables. "Hey, boy," the man called. "You want to be more than this?" Buddy wagged his tail. The man opened his car door. "Come on, let's change your life." Buddy hesitated, looked back at the alley, the torn cloth he slept on, then forward at the man. He stepped in. Life changed. He got his first real bath. The water was warm. The soap smelled like flowers. He didn't like it at first, but when he looked in the mirror and saw his black coat shine, he stood a little taller. He was taken to a training center. Other dogs were there. Labradors, German shepherds, even imported breeds. All from good families. All strong. They laughed when they saw Buddy. "What's a street dog doing here? He won't last a day." But Buddy didn't answer. He ran, climbed, crawled, obeyed. He failed sometimes, but he never gave up. One trainer whispered to another, "This one is fire. He doesn't stop." Weeks passed, then months. Buddy passed every test. He was awarded a green vest. It read, K9 unit trainee. He looked at his reflection again, and this time he smiled. He began to serve. At first, he was assigned to a hospital as a therapy dog. He sat beside children receiving treatments, licked their hands, made them laugh. One night, the hospital pharmacy was robbed. Buddy heard the noise. He jumped fences, chased a thief, cornered him until guards arrived. The story hit the news. Stray dog saves hospital. People came to meet him, take photos. Artists painted him. Kids sent letters. One letter read, "Dear Buddy, you taught me that even if you have nothing, you can still become a hero." He was invited to a school event. As he stood on stage, a medal around his neck, he spotted two familiar dogs in the crowd, the rich ones who once laughed at him. They looked down, avoided his gaze. Buddy stepped down from the stage and walked over. They braced for insult, but he simply wagged his tail and offered them a treat from the tray beside him, because true strength isn't revenge. It's kindness. Years passed. Buddy rose through the ranks. He joined rescue missions, found missing people, alerted soldiers to danger. He was no longer just Buddy, the stray. He was Sergeant Buddy, respected, saluted. Buddy never forgot. Every week, he'd return to his old alley, sit near the lamppost, watch the school gates, leave food for strays, clean their wounds, nudge them to stand tall. He became a symbol for dogs and humans alike, that it's not where you come from that defines you, but how hard you fight and how big you dream. Buddy didn't just change his life. He inspired thousands to change theirs. He spoke at veteran events. Well, barked politely. He was featured in children's books. A statue of him was placed in the park where he trained. And even as his fur grayed and his pace slowed, his spirit stayed sharp. On his final day, surrounded by people who loved him, medals around his neck, and flowers at his paws, he looked up at the sky, wagged his tail one last time, and closed his eyes. The city mourned. Murals of him appeared overnight. Stray dogs were adopted in his memory. A school started a scholarship called the Buddy Grant for underprivileged children with big dreams. Because Buddy wasn't just a dog. He was a movement. He proved that no one is too small to dream big. No past is too broken to build a future. And that sometimes the greatest heroes start with nothing but heart. This is not just a story of a dog. This is a legacy. This is Buddy. And if you ever walk down that alley on a quiet night, you might still hear soft footsteps and feel hope wagging its tail in the dark.